The next part of the trip was travelling back to Kerala, and we passed this amazing, recently built temple and stopped to have a look at it, but we didn't have time to go in. I just want you to see how detailed these little statues are, all of which tell a story. They really are quite remarkable, and you could spend 10 minutes just looking at them and wondering what the story was behind them. The guide explained the meaning of each of the characters or gods in this and the story that is told as you go along the temple. But it was just in the middle of absolutely nowhere on a road, as you can see. The next stop, impromptu, was to see brick making, and you realise just what hard work it was in very hot sun. And they make hundreds and hundreds of bricks a day, which are then fired to make them hard and suitable for construction. There you are, bricks. After that, we carried on into the next town, and we had to get off the coach and onto jeeps because the roads were too narrow for the coach to get up, and there was some sort of conference going on too. So we arrived at the hotel, which was a very modern 4-star hotel, very swish inside, with an open restaurant too. And then we drove away from there to have a cooking demonstration. It was pouring with rain, and they showed us how they made some basic things like, as you can see, but then they prepared quite a fabulous meal, which unfortunately I didn't film. That's just the end. Then back the next day to the jeeps. This time we were going on a jeep safari to get to a nature reserve to go for a walk. So as you can see, very narrow roads, unsuitable, and the jeeps were quite fun. We had to put these anti-leech socks on, and the reason was lots of these horrible leeches ready to get you, and 1 or 2 people had got them before. So anyway, beautiful, not too hot, and we had to be transported over to the island on these rather precarious looking bamboo rafts that were pulled over to the island. Once on the island, we had a couple of hours walk with the guide showing us interesting things like trees, shrubs.
Just take one leaf, then crush it, then smell it. Cinnamon. Cinnamon.
We didn't see much in the way of wildlife other than birds, but we did see some wild boar. Scenery was absolutely gorgeous, and the day was warming up quite considerably. Other things we saw included marks from tigers, and also we saw a giant squirrel, which you can see there in the middle of the picture. And then we saw local fishermen who had big bags of fish on their head, which they then went back across using the same bamboo rafts, and they would be taking them to the market to sell. We then went back to the hotel and had lunch, and then we came back in the jeeps, and this time it was much hotter, and there seemed to be a lot of monkeys about, or monkey families. But they didn't really bother you, thankfully. We then got on the boat, And again, it was very comfortable, lovely breeze. We were under cover, so we weren't roasted by the heat. And this time we did see an elephant or two. Believe it or not, that is an elephant in the distance. There's another one. It's a shame we couldn't get it any closer. And yet another elephant in the distance. We also saw bison. And yet another elephant, which was quite nice watching him sucking up the water from the lake and spraying it on himself. And then back to the hotel. And in the evening, we had a Diwali meal with a fabulous selection of very special Indian food, and then even more special were the array of Indian sweets, which are very different from the Indian sweets I've had before. Very sweet, very tasty, lots of coconut. Then Diwali celebrations. Lots of candles, lots of firecrackers, lots of sparklers. Many, many more Indians than us lot. Then, after the firecrackers, they started Indian dancing. And as I was wearing a sari, all the Indians were wanting to take pictures of me wearing the sari and got me to join in the dancing, but sadly I was a bit tired and had to go to bed. Next morning, back on the bus, on a trip further, and one of the things I noticed was lots of huge churches everywhere, beautifully built, and also, as I'll mention, lots of amazing mansions which have been built, very, very rich-looking mansions. This church was quite interesting. Architecturally, there was some sort of tea plantation next door, and you could see them doing it manually, which must be really hard work. Lots of mansions like this, as I mentioned. Then onto the homestay, which is an old planter's house, which has been kept in the way it was back in the 20s, probably. Very old-fashioned phonographs and old-fashioned phones and old-fashioned furniture. So you had the choice of staying there, but I chose to stay in the lovely, modern, air-conditioned suite in an adjoining building, a short distance away. But it gave you an idea how the planters used to live. These are the rather basic rooms. Then we went for a walk past that interesting church. Then we went to a rubber plantation and had a demonstration of how they tap the trees. This chap does 600 trees in a morning, and they get about half a litre of latex each time they do it. And there it is. Unfortunately, it's no longer really economic for them because they're undercut by other countries. Then back to the homestay, and in the evening, that's the owner of the homestay. She made us a fabulous meal. And that's it.